All right, got Sam from, I think the way you say it is Cathexis. Is that correct? Or
That's exactly right.
perfect, man. I don't want to butcher your band name 30 seconds into an interview. So that's
No worries, no worries. And it's my
cool.
first interview, so
Hey,
yeah, mistakes
I'll,
are fine.
I'll be gentle, I promise. um, cool. So uh, I kind of want to ask you, and this is just kind of off to a little left of center, but on the album, it says that you're guitar right. So does that mean that you're only in the right ear of the entire recording?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. We deliberately decided to, I guess, delineate that, like with Chris, being on the left channel the whole time, me on the right channel the whole time, except for the one guitar solo in the album that's performed by Chris in Library of Babel, which
Hmm.
is a center channel. But yeah. Otherwise, it's all just completely divided between us two.
Yeah, because when I listen to it in headphones, it's really interesting. I can hear the two different guitars playing, and that's why I was kind of really curious if that's what that meant or not. So,
Yeah, I don't really see bands, I guess, differentiate between the channels very often, or like if ever. I don't know if I've ever seen that, but yeah, we decided that we wanted to highlight that a little more. So yeah,
cool.
just had to disclose it that way.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I'm gonna only talk about two records because I've only heard two of them. Uh, so I've heard Pillar of Waste and then Untethered Abyss. So that's kind of where I'm at. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna start with Pillar of Waste just because it was many, many, many years ago. All right.
yeah.
Uh,
Sound like
yeah. Um,
all your questions about it.
so I just kind of, when I listen to that record, you can hear elements of where the band is going, but
Yeah.
there's a much more raw and thrashier kind of sound on that
Mm.
record for me. Uh, and there's two bands that I particularly hear a lot in Pillar of Waste, and I want to see if they were maybe influences. I don't know what you actually had to do with it. I don't know how much you had to do with it, but you can kind of talk to it just being a band member. But I hear a lot of Coroner and Creator in just the guitar tones. And the reason why I say Coroner is because it's got that very proggy thrash element on that record, where I think you move more into kind of a death metalish tone on this record, where a lot
Hmm.
of it had a lot of thrash, like extreme thrash back in the old days. So were those bands influences at that point in time? Because they really sound like they were.
Uh, Coroner for sure. We were listening to Coroner a ton during that time. And yeah, we actually have a Coroner cover on that album. That's the last
Yeah.
track. Uh, yeah, Mental Vortex. Like we discovered it like around that time, and we just thought it's like one of the pinnacles of metal songwriting. It's just like kind of underappreciated. I feel like usually people turn to like No More Color or some
Yeah.
other albums that they have, but yeah, I think that album really takes the cake for us. Yeah, we were definitely listening to that a lot. We do enjoy Creator, but I wouldn't cite them as an influence per se. I mean, maybe it's indirectly an influence for us at that time, but yeah, I don't want to say that it was like a deliberate influence for that album. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. You talk about the guitar tone. Uh, so like Nile had their album At the Gate of Sethu,
Mhm.
and it actually seemed like it came out to a lot of disappointment from fans because they didn't like how it sounded because the production style was such a departure from what they had done previously. But we always thought that album sounded incredible. Like it was they took a risk in a new direction, and like the way all of the instruments are balanced with each other, just how honest the performance of the guitar players is, all of that went into it. So yeah, that was definitely like something that we wanted to try to emulate a little bit with Pillar of Waste.
Cool. No, awesome. Um, and it was on a label called was Mulligore Productions. It looks like, was that you guys or was that somebody that actually put it out for you?
It was someone that put it out for us. It was this really small Canadian label, and yeah, just like right as we were putting out Pillar of Waste and even the previous album, Shades of Apocalypse. When we put that out online, like this person reached out to us and just asked us if we were willing to sign with them. So we were like, hey, I mean, we're impressionable young dudes, like late teens or early 20s. and we were just like, hey man, it's an opportunity to sign. Let's just go for it. But just in my experience, things didn't really develop much further than that with those releases. There wasn't very much promotion or anything, so I'm not sure if releasing it through the label gave us any additional exposure than what we would have had already.
No, I totally get it. I would have not even heard of you if the new record didn't come my way. So I understand the promotion side of it. But it's a really good record, and people should check it out because it's got a lot of flavors of the new record. And if you like a more thrashier side of your band, then
Yeah,
you'll definitely dig this record. So that's I want people to kind of know about it, even though it may not have had great promotion. I listened to it. I've listened to it a couple times, and I've actually really dug it. So good work on the record overall. That's that. I just want to let you know. So
thanks, man. Yeah, when we kind of look at that album in retrospect, yeah, there's a lot of things that we wish we would have spent more time on. But I mean, Chris is like the mastermind songwriter, for our band, and yeah, he kind of just nags on himself about that album a bit because it felt a bit rushed for him. But I thought, yeah, he was really starting to develop like a new sound, with the songwriting he did that on that album. So yeah, it still has a special place in my heart.
nice. So let's fast forward basically like 6.5 years, and now we're gonna go to Untethered Abyss, and then this one's out on Willowtip, and I'm gonna say that this one kind of it's a drastic departure in one way, but again, like I said, similar tones. The way I say it's a drastic departure is there's a lot of jazzy and very, very, very proggy elements on this, but in a way that still makes it a brutal death metal record. So I kind of wanted to ask, do you guys have a huge love of jazz? And the reason why I'm asking, and I know you're both from the same area, okay? So I'm just calling it out for what it is. But there is, and I'm not politically correct, so I curse like a son of a bitch sometimes. But
No, man.
all right, you fucking remind me of the death metal version of Watchtower so much that it's that it's brutal. And the reason why I say that is because you mix jazz and like extreme metal in a way that is catchy. And there's only really Spastic Ink and Watchtower are the only two bands I've heard kind of merge those two elements in the similar way. And it's just ironic that you're both from the same area. So I don't know if it's just, a local tone or, like you guys have heard it a lot, but was Watchtower a big influence on you guys for this record?
I don't think that was a deliberate influence. We do like Watchtower a lot. Like Ron Jarzenbeck is one of my favorite guitar players. I mean, I first discovered it not even through Watchtower or Spastic Ink, but through Blotted Science.
Yeah.
With a completely different sound. But uh, yeah, it's kind of crazy to hear that. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because yeah, we do like jazz a lot. I mean, we're not big jazz heads like per se. Like we never went to music school to study jazz or anything. But yeah, I do like to listen to a decent amount of jazz and fusion. And so do Ian and Chris, and yeah, actually everyone in the band listens to some jazz as well. Um, I don't think the jazz influence was so deliberate, but I guess we kind of developed, let's say, I guess like a different sense of musicality by listening to a lot of jazz because they have a lot of like complex chords and like harmonies and all that, and especially with like Arise and bands, going with that dissonant approach these days. Um, yeah, like Artificial Brain, they're we love that band, and I feel like they kind of do that really well, where they get these funky chords and are able to like mesh them into a coherent riff. So that's definitely probably where that jazzy influence comes from. Um, and yeah, one of my favorite bands is also Defeated Sanity, and yeah, they don't usually use, I guess, like big complex chords very much, but a lot of people give them credit for having these jazzy passages throughout the album.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure our love of that band kind of seeps into our songwriting as well.
Cool. Awesome. I was going to say two other bands that kind of like really come to mind when I listen to the new record is like mid-period atheist kind of really comes to mind when I listen to the way the guitars and bass play. And then Beyond Creation is another band, and I'm really gonna say that like you guys are kindred spirits. Like I almost feel like they're they're the less jazzy side, more technical side, and you're the more technical jazzy side. Like if you separated the sound, you and Beyond Creation are just like brothers of just two different forks. So like I just like these are the things that I hear. And I think that's the reason why I like this record so much is because you mix that kind of free-form jazzy element with that tech death and prog, but yet you stay death metal. The biggest knock I have for bands is they once they start going into that direction, all of a sudden death metal is a dirty word, and they start lightening up. Your riffs are full on death metal riffs. Like it is a beautiful thing to see. You can be technical, you can be forward thinking, but still keep that brutal sound. Was that definitely a thought process on making the new record?
Yeah, you got that 100% right. We always just want to keep it, like fucking death metal, So, like, yeah, I guess like around the time we came out with Chase of Apocalypse and Pillar of Waste, like one of the thought patterns that we had was let's not, just default to having blast beats over everything
Yeah.
because, not creative or whatever, but then I think eventually we realized that, blasting is awesome. Like, I want a lot of blast beats. Like, that's death metal. And yeah, if you don't know what to do over something, you play blast beats, and usually it's gonna work out pretty great. You know? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, look, like metal is our first love, and sure, yeah, we like jazz. Yeah, maybe we'll even venture into like listening to classical music, or some of the guys really like hip hop and all that too. But for Cathexis, we're a death metal band, and we're
Yeah.
gonna do that. But it's kind
Awesome.
of interesting that you mentioned Beyond Creation. Yeah, we had a chance to open for them years back, and yeah, one of their guitar players, like they're like French Canadian,
Hmm.
so they have I guess a strong relationship to Gorguts, who are also one of our main influences. I think you could probably hear some of that Gorgut sound creeping in with Pillar of Waste, and then being more solidified with a new album.
Hmm.
But yeah, like their guitar player came up to us and was like, "Yeah, you guys have some Gorgas influence, right?" And yeah, he just had that ear and recognized it. He seemed very excited about it, so that was
Oh
kind of
yeah,
cool.
I would not be doubting it because he heard his guitar tones just played in a different way, and that always excites guitar players. Me being a guitar player myself, if I go see a show and I'm like, "Oh, that dude plays the same fingering style I do," like it always just you're like it's not just me, okay? I don't play this really weird butchered style alone now, but like yeah, no, cool. Um, so I know you're the guitar player, but I want to talk a bit about your rhythm section. I know they're
Yeah,
not here right now, but the bass and the drums on this pretty much make the record for me. And here's the reason why. Because the bass is a completely autonomous instrument on this record, which I love. Like
yeah,
you can hear it playing off the guitar, playing off the vocals, playing off the drums. Like it's just one of those things where you don't normally hear it in such a way. Like I can hear like bass harmonics just because the vocals are being done a certain way and he knows that that
mm,
tone's going to sound good with the lower vocals versus the more higher death vocals, and your drummer doesn't overplay. I know you talk about blast beats, but the greatest thing in the world is I mean, we all love Gene Hoglan, don't get me wrong, but there's only so much you can listen to that mind exploding blast beat. And if it's like 70 minutes of just that beat, it becomes overkill. But
yeah,
he knows when to put the blast in and when to lay it back down and put those grooves in. And the same thing with your bass player. Um, do they write separate pieces and then bring it in after like the idea of the song is, or is it more of you guys all just jamming together to get ideas?
that's a loaded question. I yeah, I'm humbled to be able to play with guys like Oscar and Felix because they're amazing musicians. Oscar is probably like the most like musically versed member of the band. He's the bass player. We give him a lot of free reign on what to do because his musical ideas are,
Yeah.
usually right on the mark. And we just want him to add, his own flavor, make our music, sound in a way that I don't even expect it to sound. And yeah, he can do that. And I think, yeah, your comparison to like, I guess mid-era Atheist is pretty on point. Cause yeah, like, um, yeah, I guess with like Roger Patterson, like Tony Choi, like those were
Yeah.
really incredible bass players who, yeah, just added their own flair to the music instead of just like copying, what the guitar players are doing.
Right.
And yeah, Oscar, we let him do that, and yeah, we're more than happy with the results that he's given us. It's like, especially for like the intro to Library of Babel, like he did this thing where he just like swells in with his bass volume,
Yep.
and then like right when everyone just comes in, he just rattles that low string, and you can just really hear and feel that. And like that wasn't like a deliberate thing that we had in mind when we wrote that song. But he brought that in and just like, oh, made that moment just so much more killer.
Nice.
Uh, and yeah, Felix is an incredible drummer. I guess yeah, he's a pretty modest guy, but I'm gonna yeah rep him up a little bit. A few years ago he won like the world's fastest drummer contest for his feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, and that guy plays in the same band as me. It's pretty crazy. Uh, Yeah, like he's got great musicality. He doesn't just play metal. He's played with a lot of like cover bands and all that too.
Mhm.
He studied music in college, and yeah, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he definitely has his own taste and knows what he wants to gravitate towards.
Cool. No, yeah, you all know what you're doing, and that's one of the nice things about the record is it's five guys that have tonality, five different tones, but it works so well together as one unit. And that's the kind of thing that I really love about this record is even the vocals to me, like Ian, he his voice is an instrument. Like it's not just some guy doing pig squeals or guttural growls. Like you can hear he hears the guitar tone or the bass tone and says, "Okay, this is going to work." And I'm going to do this vocal style here. And to the untrained ear, yeah, it's going to sound like death growls. But to someone like you or I that have listened to this music for, I mean, I'm 48, so I've listened to this music for 30 years. You can hear the nuances of when he brings it up a little bit, he brings it down a little bit, he throws more of a harmony on it. And then what's the toughest thing and what I love about Ian the most is he can throw a hook on his voice
Yeah,
that almost matches the bass tone, and it's this catchy vibe where sometimes I can't tell the difference between the bass and his voice because it's like one big giant warm hook.
huh.
Yeah, so like that's the thing I wanted to say is like you guys are just, and the two guitar sounds, though they are similar, maybe I'm calling something out that's wrong, but I'm going to do it right now anyway. Like you are much more, to me, much more of a feeling guitar player, where Chris is much more of very technical, spot on. And I love the way the two of you kind of interplay with each other. Like you fill the holes in that Chris's kind of manicness kind of brings in for me. So when I put the headphones on and I hear the right and the left side, like your right side gives the fullness to like Chris's crazy kind of off kilter guitar. And then when he gets calm, you know just at the right time to start going insane on your parts as well too. So I don't know if that was done on purpose or if you guys have just played forever together and that's kind of a vibe. But have you kind of worked that way with him? Like listen to what he's doing and then just make sure that it's like a good harmony to what he's doing?
Yeah, there is some of that. I have never actually thought about it that way. But yeah, we have been playing together for a long time, so I think naturally, like some kind of synergy develops between us in the way we play. Um, yeah, it's kind of hard to say though that yeah we deliberately went for that approach where
Okay.
Chris has this like rigidity and like hyper focus, like technicality with his style with me having more of a feel focus. That wasn't deliberate, but yeah, I mean, it could definitely be on the record, and that's how I'm sure people could perceive it, and that's really cool to hear that from you.
Awesome. No, great. So I guess the big question, which is like the elephant in the room, why almost 7 years between a record?
So yeah, I guess like right after Pillar of Waste came out, most of us were still in school. Like I was finishing up my program at the University of Texas through 2015, and yeah, just life really kind of got in the way. And for the songs that we were writing too, we were just trying to make sure that we were developing in a new way. We wanted to have like a distinct sound for sure, and that was a part of it. But yeah, a lot of it is just yeah, life just happening, kind of delaying us. But we never gave up our vision, and I'm really happy that finally something came out.
Nice. Awesome. So I guess the next thing I'm going to ask is after 6+ years getting these songs together, was Willowtip the only choice in your mind? Like, was that the place you wanted to go, or was that the one that came knocking and just seemed to work right?
Willowtip was definitely the label that I wanted to work with the most. They have so many of my favorite releases. Like, it still hasn't hit me yet that my band is just released an album through Willowtip.
Yeah.
Like, I saw a copy of the vinyl packaging for the first time yesterday. Yeah, and it's just crazy. It says Cathexis on there, and then you turn it over, and there's that Willowtip stamp on the back, with their catalog number and everything. It boggles my mind because, yeah, I've never had anything like that before, and just to be able to hold that in my hand, like, was pretty nuts. But yeah, I mean, we were definitely open to working with other labels, but yeah, Willowtip wanted to work with us, and there was no way that I was going to reject that. Yeah,
totally understand. No. They are absolutely one of the pinnacles in this style of music. I'm not going to disagree. A matter of fact, I just did a review yesterday of the brand new Noctabulist record, and
yeah,
your record and that record are probably two of like the best things that I've heard this year as far as music. So like Willowtip is always kind of forward thinking again on the bands that they do, and it's not going to be something that everybody likes, but if you like this kind of stuff, it is always quality. And then I want to talk about the vinyl, because it's the coolest thing, and it seems like Willowtip is just doing this now, where they're doing like this mixed vinyl thing where it could be a random vinyl of any kind of colors. Like,
yeah.
Was that done on purpose? Like, because that seems like it's a thing that just recently started with the label, where you don't know what swirl colored vinyl you're gonna get.
Yeah, that wasn't really decided by us.
Okay.
Yeah, that was more of a decision on Willowtip's part, which is really cool. I mean, I have like some of their releases from other bands that are mixed splatter. It's pretty cool. I was really excited about the red and black vinyl, though.
Yeah.
Just like when we first got like a preview of what the vinyl might look like, our jaws, just dropped because it just fit with the color scheme of the album artwork so well. And yeah, we didn't know what Willowtip was going to do with it, but yeah, they gave us that preview, and we were just like, "That's the one." We got
nice. Very cool. So that's a great place to kind of segue into. So I want to talk about the album cover, for Untethered Abyss. Like the Pillar of Waste kind of gives me that death metal vibe, that thrash metal vibe. Like if you look at it, it reminds me of kind of a late 90s, early 2000s, like extreme metal record. This one kind of feels like you're painting a story. It's almost like Dante's Inferno comes to life, in my opinion. Like that, like when I look at it, it is an abyss. I can't tell what abyss it is, but it's some kind of hellish landscape. Did you purposely make sure that the album cover fit with the vibe and the kind of style of the record, or was this just a piece of art that was like, fuck yeah, like this is too cool not to use?
It's definitely the former. Yeah, we definitely wanted to have some creative reign over the artwork. Yeah, because like when you think back to your favorite albums, you do associate like the feel of the record and the feeling of the artwork like working together. Like an album cover that really comes to mind when it comes to that is Planetary Duality by the Faceless,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite tech death albums. But yeah, like when I hear that sound, like and look at the artwork, like they work so well together. Like the album sounds like the artwork, and the artwork kind of looks like the way the band sounds on that album. And yeah, we wanted to have something like that. Like we wanted to keep it a little abstract. We didn't want it to be super concrete as to defining like what it is that you're looking at. But there's a little bit of abstractness there, I think, where you don't know exactly what you're looking at, but it's not too abstract to the point where you have no idea. But in terms of connecting the theme of the album with the cover itself, should probably ask Ian that. He'll be able to talk about it more eloquently than I can.
Well, Ian's not here, so you did a good job. Thank you very much for that.
Sure.
I guess where we'll go from there is kind of, where do you feel more akin to as a band? Do you feel more tech death, or do you feel more progressive death? Because you're one of those interesting bands, in my opinion, that mixes the boundary very much. Sometimes you're tech, sometimes you're proggy, sometimes you're just brutal death metal. Which one do you feel more akin to?
If I had to pick, I guess more tech death, but I guess we don't really have that typical tech death sound that people have come to associate with that term. Like we love brutal death metal a lot. Like that's probably the style of death metal that I listen to the most these days, honestly. Like I don't think we were ever deliberately trying to have a progressive approach or anything like that, but I think that sound just kind of comes out naturally with what we're trying to achieve. I guess something that we really wanted to focus on was having concise songs that don't really lose your focus. Yeah, there's so many like dense releases out there these days where bands are just putting their ambition just like all on the table, just trying to build up these long, extremely developed songs that also have a lot of intensity to them. And I mean, honestly, for me, sometimes like I just lose focus when I'm listening to music like that because it's just a lot to take in at one time. And I guess a lot of times it's bands like that who get that progressive label. So we kind of deliberately wanted to avoid, having these long, meandering songs. And yeah, it seems like some reviewers thought that that kind of took away from the value of our music a little bit, but that's fine. I mean, I understand that, but a lot of people are looking for that super dense, super developed, like very compositional kind of music. But yeah, we wanted to, keep it death metal. Death metal should be something that you could mosh to, headbang to,
right? Hey, a 4 or 5 minute long song that kicks ass is a 4 or 5 minute long song that kicks ass. Like, let's just be honest. I mean, if you want that kind of style, this is exactly the way I feel. Then go to Obscura, go to Gorguts, because you're going to get those and you're going to get that perfect kind of record. You're not that band. You add so many different elements and layers to it that I wouldn't want Cathexis to be that. I would want you, I love what you're doing right now. If I want to listen to Obscura, I'm going to put an Obscura record on. Okay. Like that's just like the way, that's the way I feel. Like I'm not looking for a clone. So I'm going to talk about a couple of tracks that I actually love on the new record. And ironically, they're back to back to each other. And I almost feel like it's on purpose. And if I'm just hearing it and insane, fucking let me know. That's fine. I have no problems.
Sure.
But Red Hook and Library of Babel, like those are my two favorite songs back to back. And the reason why is because they mix that hook and melody with the death metal fury, where the other ones normally go in one direction or the other. These two seem to kind of be almost one song split up into two parts. The Red Hook is more of the angrier side to me, and then Library of Babel is more of the, okay, we're really throwing everything on the table here, and here's all the different elements that we as a band do. Can you talk about those two tracks for me?
Sure, I'll give that a try. The track list, the order of the track list, was something we did think about. We wanted the album to flow, as naturally as it could, without, being too jarring between the songs or anything. Those are my favorite albums, where you just want to listen to it from beginning to end, and that's definitely something we wanted to try to achieve. I don't know if we did. You and all the other listeners let us know if we achieved that. But yeah, for Red Hook and Library, yeah, I don't know that there was like a deliberate continuity there, when we were writing those songs. But yeah, whenever we were trying to figure out the track listing, yeah, we did feel that those songs, flowed into each other really well. So, that was part of why, yeah, those tracks are where they are in the album.
Cool. No, great. They do merge into each other so well. Even if it was subconscious, it was a really good subconscious idea. So well done on that. I guess what I want to talk about next is Austin, Texas. To me, it seems like not the biggest death metal hub in the world. Now, Houston, San Antonio, I see a lot of death metal from there. But Austin has always kind of been more, not to be rude, kind of hard rock and kind of, metal, but on a lighter side of metal. There's some bands that are amazing from there, like the Watchtowers of the world and things like that. That I'm talking about. But what's the scene like there? Is it growing as a big death metal hub now, or is it kind of like you and just a few other guys doing it and trying to bring it out there?
I think it's definitely getting stronger. Sure. Yeah, I don't think the scene here is quite as large as the scenes in those other cities you mentioned. But yeah, like right now, there's a band called Flesh Hoarder who's signed with New Standard Elite, like a slam brutal death metal kind of band. Yeah, we actually opened for them last night, and yeah, they're gaining a lot of traction right now, in the brutal death metal community. Yeah, there's a lot of good talent here for some reason. Yeah, their names just haven't really, traveled too far. There was a band called Id that I really liked. They were a technical death metal band that was around here, before Cathexis jumped on the scene. Mm-hmm. They're very, very talented guys. Unfortunately, they're not together anymore. But yeah, I recommend that you go check them out. They're called ID. And then, yeah, there's another brutal death metal band that's kind of situated between here and San Antonio called Defiled Crypt. And yeah, those guys are good friends of ours. And yeah, they kind of have that brutal death metal thing going on with some atmosphere added to it as well. That's really cool. And Images of Violence, yeah, another brutal death metal band that used to be based in Austin. I don't think they're really doing anything anymore. And a band that I really wish were still active is Sarcolytic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but yeah, they have released their, I think, Unique Leader. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it is. It's on Unique Leader.
Yeah, like, it's awesome. The Arcane Progeny, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, like, they were an awesome band. And yeah, I saw them, when I was just like a young guy just trying to go to death metal shows as a kid. And I didn't even know like John Zig did vocals, But yeah, he was a vocalist for them. And yeah, like, I wish they were still around. Their band, they have such a killer sound. Yeah, there's myriad of other bands too. Yeah, so the scene's definitely active. For some reason, I guess we're just not very good at promoting ourselves. Yeah, but we definitely have talent here.
Cool. So live versus the studio, what would we see different in Cathexis? Like, if I went to see you, how is it different than listening to you on record?
Well, playing live is always a challenge, because you have all that adrenaline rushing inside of you. especially with the drummer. Like Felix is a monster, and like if he's not on tempo, it's not because he's slowing down, but it's because he's playing faster. you know, and yeah, that and I like that. Sometimes yeah, it sucks that you're not able to play your guitar parts as cleanly as you would like because you're playing so fast, but you get more of that rush when you're trying to keep up. And death metal, you should be fighting your instrument a little bit. And I love that. I think there's a lot of energy at our live shows. Um, yeah, we really give it our all. Like Ian's a great frontman. I think he's great with the crowd interactions too, which is not something you'll get on studio, obviously. Yeah, and yeah, we kind of develop like the slower parts a little differently live. There's a break in Library of Babel towards the end of the song where that main groove comes in. It goes like that part comes in. Yeah, live will often just hold out our chords right before that part kicks in, just to create more suspense, and then nice. Felix will do the drum fill, and then we'll come in with that part. So yeah, we'll play around with things like that live a little more. And yeah, also for the end of the song Mortuus in Perpetuum, it's basically a drum solo for Felix. So, and he improvises that every time. So it's not like the parts are concrete for that section. So yeah, we just keep playing the riff out and yeah, listen to what Felix does. And when we hear the cue with his cymbals that he's about to end his solo, then that's when we end the song.
Nice. So if let's say you're in a record store and you see your record for the very first time, and you watch some kid just pick up the record, and he looks over to you and he says, "Hey, have you heard this band? What do they sound like?" How would you describe your band to this person who's never heard you before?
Man, you're putting me on the spot with a question like that.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would definitely say something like, yeah, it's technical death metal, with a little less focus on the technical side of things. We wanted it to be a little more like musically concrete. So yeah, I would say, yeah, if you like Gore Guts, you would definitely find the elements that you like on this album. If you like Artificial Brain, you should definitely give our band a chance. Yeah, even some brutal death metal influences. Yeah, we do have some like slammy kind of riffs and like palm muted, like fast runs, on the low strings of the guitar. Well, yeah, I mean, I've never really tried to define our sound before, so yeah, this is a bit challenging, but yeah, mix of a dash of Necrophagist, a larger dash of Gore Guts, maybe even some Decapitated, throw that in there.
Cool. All right, awesome. No, that's great to know. Is there anything with the new record that after you had some time to listen to it, do you think, man, I wish we tried something a little bit different there? Or is this the record that at the end of the day you said, no, this is completely Cathexis, and any little issues or any little flaws, they're there for a reason, and it makes the band the band?
Yeah, I think the album's an accurate portrayal of who we are as a band right now, with all our strengths and our shortcomings as well. Like if you really listen very closely to the record, you're gonna see that not everything is perfect. But we decided to leave all the. I don't like it when albums sound too surgical with the production. I want to capture that honest human performance, and I think we were able to achieve that. Maybe people will disagree, but I think it sounds like actual people are playing these songs. Especially with the drum sound, like there's so many bands that just have that like overproduced, like sample replace sounding, production. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. It doesn't sound like real drums to me, and it doesn't sound like I'm listening to a person playing, when the production sounds like that a lot of the time. So yeah, we wanted to really capture that human aspect of it, warts and all.
Nice. Are you going to head out on the road with this record, or is it going to be something that you're just going to do kind of one-offs and festival shows? Being that the world's starting to open up and people are starting to be able to get to see shows again. So,
I would love to tour. Yeah, that would be a dream come true for me. We don't have any tour plans developing at the moment, but I would like to get something figured out with the band. But yeah, we'll see. But right for now, we're just playing these one-off shows. We have a few shows coming up in Fort Worth and maybe one in San Antonio, in the near future. So, but yeah, I would love to come out, to different states, yeah, all over the country. The West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. You name it. I'd love to be there and just play in front of different audiences. But yeah, we'll see what the future has in store for us.
not a problem at all. So I'm going to say thank you, but this is my last question. And then I'm going to kind of let you talk about the band a little bit, just to be able to hype it up, because every band deserves that. But my last question is pretty much a similar question I ask a lot of bands, and this is going to be another thinker, so I'm throwing you on the spot again. Just be prepared.
All right.
So if you could hand your record to anyone right before it's finished and have them do finishing touches, produce it, engineer it any way you want, that didn't do it this time, is there one person that you think could give it that special extra touch?
Gotta think about this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a thinker. Man, I mean, I love Leela Gruber from Defeated Sanity.
Okay.
That guy is just like a inspiration for me. He's just, yeah, a musical phenomenon. Like, he plays drums for them, writes almost everything for them. On their latest album, he actually played most of the guitar parts too, which is crazy insane. And yeah, I just always loved his musicality. Like, sure, he might not be like the tightest or like the fastest drummer ever, but I think he's up there with being one of the most tasteful drummers out there, most musical. He just really knows how to coax so many different sounds out of all of the instruments he touches.
Nice.
So to have that kind of mind, yeah, do some kind of like, I don't know, I guess you could call it consulting for us. That would have been like pretty, yeah, that would have been very valuable. And yeah, let me cheat and even mention another person. Yeah, there's Bob Katz, who's a mastering engineer. Yeah, he's been in the industry for a very long time. Basically, yeah, literally wrote the textbook on mastering. And I always loved how Epitaph by Necrophagia sounded. But I feel like a lot of bands try to, emulate that sound, but I really don't think anyone has really gotten that sound out of their record. And I want to say a part of that has to do with the mastering job that's done on it. Like, it's got density, but it also has, dynamic range, and like the tones just work so perfectly. It sounds very natural, but so tight. And yeah, I would love to maybe one day have him master one of our albums to see, how he thinks, it should sound.
Very cool. So I definitely will leave links to your Bandcamp and to your social media so people can kind of get in touch and get the record and find out, all about you. But for the next couple of minutes, I kind of want to, Sam, just give you the podium. Talk about the band, talk about anything that's going on, anything that you want your fans to know about. So it's the door is open for you to talk right now.
Yeah, we're Cathexis from Austin, Texas. We like death metal. We love playing for you guys. If y'all want to invite us over to your hometown, set up a show, just reach out to us, let us know. We'll be more than happy to try to arrange that to the extent that we can with everything going on in our lives. Yeah, we're just very humbled with all the reception that we've been getting. The fact that we're signed with a label like Willowtip, the fact that, there's a myriad of reviews online for us. It's just crazy seeing that, even including your video review. Like, it was just nuts being able to see that. And yeah, even just telling like my social circle about it. I'm just like, I feel like a kid who's just like super stoked about something again. And that's a feeling that I don't always have. So I don't take it for granted. Yeah, and we're not giving up. We're gonna hopefully we'll get started on writing more material, very soon. And we want to make a better record than the one that we just released. A lot of these songs have been in our heads for multiple years, so I think we've had a good time to just sit down, really think about where we want to go next. So hopefully this next one, you guys will like it even more.
Cool. No, thank you so much, man. Hey, speaking with Sam from Cathexis, really do appreciate your time. And again, love the record. If you do ever come out to the Phoenix area, I definitely will come see you. Don't you worry about that. But thank you again for the time, and you have a good day, man.
Hey, you too. Thanks so much for having us. This is my first time doing an interview, and it's very flattering that I get to feel like a celebrity today.
Awesome, Sam. Thank you so much, man. You have a great day.
Likewise.
Bye.
Cheers.